Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. 2022 was a huge, exciting, and terrifying year. I literally feel like I aged 10 years in the last 12 months. Thankfully, one of the redeeming qualities of the year was that there was just so much great music that came out in this year. It really was like a tsunami wave of awesome gems as early as January. Of course, there's no way in hell I had time to listen to everything that came out, but I have quite a solid list of some of my favorite albums that came out in this year. But before we get started, let's just acknowledge that these lists are highly subjective. It's always a lot of fun to celebrate our favorite albums each year. And hopefully along the way, I'll be able to expose to you some albums that maybe went underneath your radar. But if your number one album is number 12 on my list, don't worry, we're on the same page. We both recognize that it's awesome. So take it with a small grain of salt, and without further ado, let's get on with the list. To kick things off at number 30, I'm going to start with Beach House's latest album. Once Twice Melody is an extremely soothing and relaxing 4-disc LP with 18 tracks of blissful dream pop, ambience, and shoegaze vibes. There are so many delicious highlights on this massive record. Listening to this album makes me feel like I'm floating away into the void on a cloud. At number 29, we have an album that I've heard quite a lot of praise about since its release, but I never got around to listening to it until just a few days ago. That will be the debut album from Chat Pile, God's Country, a pulverizing sludge metal album. I wish I picked up on this earlier because I see this exponentially growing on me as I listen to it more. Regardless, I was absolutely floored by the slow, crunching riffs and the potent message. This was a consistently powerful album, but perhaps the track Y in particular struck a chord with me. It is a desperate plea for help for the homeless. The screams of, "Why do people have to live outside?" is absolutely blood-curdling and hair-raising. It hits home because it's impossible for me not to notice the massive increase in the homeless population in the last few years in my hometown. And don't even get me started on my trip to Vancouver last summer. What I saw there shocked me to the core, and I think it's going to leave a crack on my soul that will never really go away. Next, I'm putting Dawn FM by The Weeknd. Frankly, I've never been the biggest Weeknd fan, and it's not that I thought his music was bad, it just never clicked with me. I guess it took Abel's short appearance in that Uncut Gems film, and the discovery that Jim Carrey, of all people, will be narrating parts of this album. Better late than never, and what a way to discover The Weeknd. Dawn FM is one pop hit after another. Honestly, this feels like the kind of dance music you'd find in some dystopian doomsday party. It's dark, existential, but oddly comforting. And I guess it is a bit of a tone setter since it came out early January for the rest of this chaotic and rather terrifying year. The number 27 spot goes to none other than Joey Badass with his long-awaited 2000 album. This album feels like a best-of compilation of some of those classic style of rap that we grew up listening to in the 90s. It's an incredibly consistent album that has plenty of hits and lives up to the hype of that beloved 1999 album that came out in 2012. This is also a deeply personal experience for Joey, especially on tracks like Survivor's Guilt. It's a real tearjerker. At number 26, we have Pusha T's latest album, It's Almost Dry. A smash hit, certainly one of the most popular major releases of the year. It's Almost Dry has some mega bangers that define this year's rap music, due to the infectious and creative beats and to the lyrical mastery of Push. He is truly a heavyweight rapper, and this album is further proof, and yet another slam dunk upon his impressive win streak. Now, on to number 25. It's been a minute since Earl Sweatshirt last album, Some Rat Songs, an album that I was head over heels in love with. Sick continues Earl's tradition of making very short albums, this one clocking in just above 24 minutes in length, but even though it's short, it never loses any potency. It's a powerful rap album that shows a much more confident side to Earl's very poetic style of rapping, paired with some extremely layered and thick beats. And I think the highlight for me is that insane Armand Hammer feature on Tabula Rasa. Awesome. Next, we have Julia Jackson's Pre-Pleasure at number 24. Her previous album, Crushing, was love at first sight for me. And though I don't think that this album is quite as great as that one, I still think it's lovely. I love Julia's angel-like voice and her knack for intimate lyrics. She's one of the best new alternative rock singers that consistently delivers heart-wrenching ballads. But as with the last record, it's not all soft and tender. There are some truly great rocking cuts on this album, most notably Be Careful With Yourself. Easily my favorite track off of Pre-Pleasure. And speaking of rocking out, at number 23 we have Jack White's Fear of the Dawn. This record proves he's still an absolute beast on the guitar. There are some wonderfully adventurous guitar tracks here, such as What's the Trick? It's also worth noting that he put out 2 albums this year, the second being Entering Heaven Alive, though personally I much prefer Fear of the Dawn. Number 22, God Don't Make Mistakes, a dense rap odyssey by Conway the Machine. In my eyes, it's always been a very cinematic rap album. It's filled with eye-opening introspective narratives on the horrors of his life and how he almost lost his life due to gun violence. It's an incredibly gritty and revealing musical experience, all the while having the album stacked with rap bangers. It's a heavy listen, but yields a massive creative return on investment. Next up at number 21, we have an indie gem that unfortunately I haven't heard much talk about throughout the year. Daniel Rawson's debut album, You Belong There, is an eclectic, mesmerizing folk, baroque, chamber pop rock album of epic proportions. I love the layers upon layers of complex guitar playing paired with the ethereal vocals. If the name Daniel Rawson doesn't ring any bells for you, then the beautiful vocals should instantly recall you of his incredible contribution to music through Grizzly Bear, a band for which he was a member since almost the beginning as a multi-instrumentalist and as a co-lead vocalist. And it has been a while since the last Grizzly Bear album, which was back in 2017. And with the departure of Ed Drost, who knows when or even if we'll ever get another Grizzly Bear album. Until then, You Belong There is the next best thing, and honestly ranks with some of the best Grizzly Bear albums, which is no small feat. So yeah, this album is 100% unmissable and an absolute beaut. Number 20. Here's an artist that I've been totally sleeping on. I've heard her featured on a few tracks here and there, but I never paid too much attention. Shame on me because SZA's new album, SOS, is TNT. What confidence! What flow! She has an indomitable poise for most of this album, apart from those few choice moments of emotional turmoil. It's an incredibly consistent and potent pop, R&B, and rap album, except for that one moment where she does a complete U-turn. Honestly, I thought I accidentally butt dialed like an Avril Lavigne song in my phone. But no, I did not. It's actually part of the album. Anyway, seeing how much I love this album, I should probably make some time and check out Control. Next up, at number 19, we pretty much have the album that is universally considered by critics and fans alike to be the album of the year. But on my list, on number 19, I'm putting Beyoncé's Renaissance. It's been 6 years since Lemonade, and that is a decade-defining musical experience. So Beyoncé has set herself a super high bar to surpass. And frankly, I think she knocked it out of the park with a complete left turn musically. This is an album drenched in sick electronic sounds for a distinctly dance, house, pop, disco fusion album mixed with heavy rap vibes. The opening track alone was a great tone setter that really surprised me on first listen. It's an ambitious hour-long album with so many explosive bangers that are so catchy they even make this skinny white boy's ass shake uncontrollably. At number 18, Cheat Codes is the collab album of the year between two legends. Esteemed producer Danger Mouse teams up with none other than Black Thought, the lyrical wizard from The Roots, to make one of the best rap albums of the year. The album is filled with incredible samples, lyrical prowess, and a host of killer features such as Joey Badass, A$AP Rocky, Run the Jewels, and even MF Doom. May he rest in peace. It's a rock-solid 38-minute record that is absolutely unmissable for fans of rap. At number 17, Nas delivers yet another outstanding album with King's Disease 3. Nas really has a fire lit in his soul right now. Just last year he put out King's Disease 2, not only one of the best albums of 2021, but easily one of the best albums of his career. And as if that weren't enough, just at the end of 21, he put out a 30-minute album called Magic. So yeah, 3 great albums in 1 year's time. I don't know how he does it, but it's even more impressive when you think that King's Disease 3 is a 50-minute album with 0 features. It is 100% Nas. It is an exciting time to be a Nas fan. I don't know if Nas and Hit Boy are planning a 4th King's Disease album, but if the quality is anywhere close to this record, I'm all ears. At number 16, Wet Leg is an extremely catchy indie pop rock album from a very charismatic duo. There are no highbrow, deep-seated concepts to unpack here. Wet Leg's debut is just one rocking, sexy song after another. It's such a steamy and playful album that it kind of makes me sweat. I found this record to be irresistibly cool and fun to listen to. Debut album of the year? Possibly. At number 15, we have Little Sim's No Thank You, a record that came out barely 2 weeks ago. Proof of why you should hold off on these year-end lists as long as you can. Even though I need more time to process the material at hand, there is no doubt in my mind that this is one of the defining records of the year. It's a dense and passionate follow-up to one of the defining albums of last year. It's a dense and passionate follow-up to one of the crowning achievements of last year's music, with Sometimes I Might Be an Introvert. Her lyrical mastery continues on No Thank You with some of the most potent and passionate lyrics you'll find in any rap album. And this really is no small feat considering just how massive and grandiose the previous album was. It's an extremely exciting time to witness a queen of rap music at the height of her powers in real time. At number 14, I'm placing the subtly beautiful and terrifying Ugly Season from Perfume Genius. It's a complete left turn stylistically from anything Mike Hadrias has produced thus far. Ugly Season has some of the most creative and disturbing sounds I've heard all year. I know this was initially composed as a musical companion to a contemporary dance piece, but it is oddly fitting in this dark and terrifying year. It's a deeply unsettling auditory experience, punctuated with some moments of genuine beauty. If we weren't already convinced that Perfume Genius is one of the greatest musical acts of our generation, then Ugly Season cements that reputation indefinitely. Wow. At number 13, Lupe Fiasco with Drill Music in Zion. It's been a minute since I listened to some Lupe, and honestly, some of my early days of discovering rap music owes a lot to Lupe Fiasco with The Cool. Honestly, this album reignited my passion for Lupe's music. Drill Music in Zion was superb. And it's even cooler to learn that this album was recorded in 3 days. Damn! This is a great album with some potent messages, and it features some wonderfully melancholic jazzy rap beats. Not hating on the first half, but the second half is near flawless. Next, we're starting to get close to the top 10. At number 12, I have White's Blood and In the Darkness, Hearts Aglow. God, what a serene and gorgeous album. It starts off so simply with nothing but piano and Natalie Merring's beautiful voice, and it builds and builds in this mind-expanding crescendo. Perhaps my favorite example of that kind of crescendo would be on God Turn Me Into a Flower. The second half of the 6-minute track is an absolute showstopper. In what I see as the most chaotic year of my life, this soothing, beautiful chamber pop album just did so much to alleviate stress from my shoulders. Hearts Aglow felt like it was wrapping a warm blanket around my soul. Utterly sensational. At number 11, I'm placing easily the most introspective and challenging album of the year. That would be Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Frankly, this is an album that I'm still processing, and I imagine I will be processing for a long time to come. After my first listen, I wasn't sure that I enjoyed it. Even today, this isn't exactly an album that I revisit for pleasure. It's a double LP with choice few tracks that are there for you to bop to. However, it's an incredible artistic statement and a monumental growth for Kendrick Lamar, the artist and the human being. After one of the all-time greatest win streaks of any artist's discography, I can hardly think of a more appropriate way to continue his legacy as one of the, if not the most important rapper today. Alright, we're at the top 10 now. Starting at the top 10, I have to put Capra Songs. Honestly, I flip-flopped a lot to place it even higher on the list. These lists are impossibly hard to make, especially with a year as stacked as this one. So let's just simply rejoice that we can bless our ears with Capra Songs, regardless of where it may fall on any list. FKA Twigs delivers an incredibly passionate, fun, and melancholic mixtape. It's actually one of the first albums to drop this year, sometime mid-January, and it stayed in my mind consistently throughout all of the year. There are numerous standout tracks such as Ride the Dragon, Meta Angel, Oh My Love, Light Beamers, Careless, Darjeeling. Honestly, they're some of my favorite tracks that I listened to this year, and I keep listening to them and enjoying them. They are absolute earworms. I just love the fusion of pop, dance, and rap on Capra Songs. It's a deeply sensitive album with lyrics that make me blush. At number 9, we have one of the most intriguing debut albums of the year, with A Light for Attracting Attention by The Smile. And for the uninitiated, 3/4 of the band are members from Radiohead. That aside, The Smile has delivered an incredibly layered and kaleidoscopic soundscape for us to get lost in. It truly does feel like a continuation of what Radiohead has been doing, particularly perhaps with their latest album, A Moon-Shaped Pool, but perhaps with a much more electronic and post-punk vibe added to it. Additionally, there's something deeply oceanic about this musical experience. There are moments where I feel like I'm submerged in water, blissfully floating away. I'm excited for their next album, which apparently they're already hard at work on, and I have gotten a few glimpses of it at their live show that I saw a few months ago. And yes, they do throw a killer live show. Ooh, things are starting to get hot here. At number 8, one of my favorite albums to listen to on repeat, JID's The Forever Story. This is a supremely varied collection of songs that explode with personality and talent. JD has an unstoppable flow as a rapper and shows some surprising talent as a singer. Some of the biggest hits of the year are on this album. Tracks like Radar, right after the intro Galaxy on the album, kicks off the album with a bang. And from there on out, it is non-stop. Dance Now, Crack Sandwich, Bread and M, Synonym, Stars, Just in Time, with one of the best Lil Wayne features in a while. And yes, he is very hit or miss on those features, but on this one, it's an absolute slam dunk, so it is quite refreshing to see that. The Forever Story has a bit of everything for everyone, and it never feels like it lowers its overall quality to satisfy the largest common denominator possible. It is exquisite from A to Z. Number 7. Diaspora Problems by Solo is easily the most gut-punching album I've listened to all year. It's like a sonic grenade in my ears. This is a hardcore punk album with throat-tearing screams and a heavy infusion of hip-hop mixed into it. It's a powerful and chaotic blend that works perfectly. For my part, it was love at first sight with the opening track, Gold Chain Punk, Who Gon' Be My Ass. I can't tell you how many times I've listened to this track alone throughout the year. It is absolute dynamite. Diaspora Problem is a blistering machine gun fire of heavy punk tracks from beginning to end. Folks, you don't need no coffee to stay energized and feel awake. You need some fucking soul glow in your life. At number 6, we have an absolute gem that likely scared off a lot of people. Understandably so in a way. I'm talking about Richard Dawson's The Ruby Chord. I absolutely fell in love with his collab album last year with Circles called Henki. So I was pleasantly surprised to see that he was making a new album this year. Damn, the opening track, The Hermit, is 41 minutes long. Personally, I think this is a magical, soul-crushing, progressive rock song filled with poetry and beauty. It's just unlike anything I've heard all year long. I was enraptured. Beyond the opening track, which is crazy because this one track is longer than a lot of the albums on this list. Anyway, the next tracks are intriguing in their own way as well. No doubt, this is not an album for many, if not most people. But for those who are patient and have an open mind, I think you'll find an incredible return on investment if you pull through. It is breathtaking, an absolute beauty. At number 5, we have perhaps the craziest album of the year. That will be none other than Hellfire by Black Midi. If you had any fears about progressive rock music being dead or a thing of the past, fear not, because Black Midi has been tearing the music industry a new one with their last 2 albums. Just last year, they put out Cavalcade, one of the best albums of 2021. And honestly, this new album, Hellfire, makes that seem tame in comparison. There are so many moments on this album where I'm just grabbing my hair thinking, like, what the hell am I listening to? Of course, I mean that in the best way possible. Listening to this feels like being strapped on a missile just tearing across the sky. It's a relatively short LP, but what a blistering earth scorcher of an album. Hellfire indeed. At number 4, I'm putting the most heartwarming album of the year. Dragon New War Mountain, I Believe in You, is a massive 20-track album that is 80 minutes in length. Yet somehow Big Teeth manages to make this the smoothest and most accessible experience imaginable. There's barely a single cut that I don't love in some way, shape, or form. It's an absolute gem of indie folk rock music. Once again, it's been a rough year, and this album really feels like a ray of light piercing through dark clouds. It's an incredibly comforting album, which is fitting when you consider the adorably cute album cover with the dragon and the woodland creatures chilling around a campfire. I just love this album. Top 3! Between this record and the next, it was impossible for me to choose. I was just literally going back and forth endlessly. Regardless of the placement on the list, they are the crowning achievements of rap music in 2022. Melt My Eyes, See Your Future by Denzel Curry is a lush, creative, meditative, and reflective rap album that is just mesmerizing from beginning to end. It has an outstanding flow and features some of the best bars of any album this year. God damn, he's on fire. Lyrical miracles are aplenty on Melt My Eyes. Not to mention, this record has some of those pristine production qualities. It just sounds so good. Though a lot of the album is quite slow, melancholic, and in many ways cold, there are still some moments that just absolutely pop with ultra hits. For example, Troubles with an excellent T-Pain feature, or the massive Ain't No Way featuring another 5 artists on this single track, or the mesmerizing X-Wing. To me, the most remarkable part of this album are the deep emotional depths that are explored here in an incredibly poetic rap way. I think it is a landmark in the realm of rap music. It's an instant classic, and months later, after continuously listening to this album, I'm still finding gold to extract from here. Number 2, we're almost at the album of the year. Last year, one of my top albums of 2021, and certainly the rap album of the year, was the collab album between Armand Hammer and producer Alchemist that made Haram, an absolutely devastating rap album. The two members of Armand Hammer are Elucid and Billy Woods, and both of them have released solo albums this year. And though they may be a bit rough around the edges, don't underestimate them. There's gold to be found there. Though as for Billy Woods himself, that Church album that I posted here is actually the second album he put out. Earlier this year, in April, he put out an absolute grand slam of a rap album called Ethiops. This is one of the darkest and most brutal rap albums I've ever listened to. It's filled with disturbing history, it's philosophical, and the lyrics are metaphorical. Honestly, this yields some of the best rap bars I've ever heard. Seriously, there's so many moments on Ethiops that just torpedoed my brain. I had to stop what I was doing and just ponder about what the fuck I just heard. Yeah, the album left me gobsmacked. Paired with the devastating bars are some truly dark and creative beats. I love all the acoustic instruments that were used here. There's something so dark and sinister about this album. It almost feels arcane, like a black magic spell that is summoning this dark storm cloud in the distance. It is heavy as hell. Yeah, there's so many highlights on this album that I just keep on revisiting. Enough said, go check it out if you haven't already. And finally, for the number 1 spot, the album of the year. I knew from the moment I finished listening to this album that this would be something that I would cherish for the rest of my life. Not only is it an instant classic, but it's an album that carried me through some of the darkest and most confusing parts of my life throughout the year. This album will be none other than Black Country New Roads' Ants From Up There. There isn't a single moment on this album that I don't love. With each track, it just gets better and more heart-wrenching as we progress. Not to say that the first half isn't good, far from it. But as of the halfway point, the album just shoots for the stars. Good Will Hunting broke through any and all defenses I had and just struck me to the core, and then the grungy climax just obliterated me. Haldern starts off so delicate and builds in this incredible wall of sound. The instrumentals are to die for. Mark's theme is a beautiful interlude that gives us a short breather before the last 3 tracks, and these 3 tracks are the biggest tracks on the album by far. The place where he inserted the blade is a 7-minute masterpiece that melts my heart every time I listen to it. Literally, there isn't a single time that it hasn't given me goosebumps. It is without a doubt the song of the year in my opinion. The 9-minute slow glimpse is a slow progression that just builds in this incredible crescendo to only come back down and slow down to a crawl for the last track, the massive 12-minute basketball shoes. And this track is just devastating. I think at this point it's one of my favorite closing tracks of all time. It is hard to explain just how much this album makes me feel. It is a masterpiece, and without a quarter of a moment's hesitation, my album of the year. It's given me passion, hope, beauty, a whole rainbow of emotions. I really like Black Country New Roads' debut album last year, but I had no idea they'd drop a bomb on us like Ants From Up There. And especially after such a short time. I don't think it's even been a full year since that debut album. It's even more shocking when 4 days before this album's release, guitarist and lead vocalist Isaac Woods decided to leave the band due to struggles with mental health. Isaac, I don't know where you're up to today. Wherever you are, I wish you nothing but the best. You and everyone else in this band have made a timeless record. You guys should be proud of yourselves. Ants From Up There is a treasure. As for the future of Black Country New Road, I have no idea what to expect. Regardless of what the next iteration of this band will be, take your time, guys. We will be there. And there you have it, my top albums of the year. Please feel free to leave your comments about which albums you were thrilled to see here, or which ones you feel that were placed too high, too low, whatever, Once again, take it with a small grain of salt. I can't satisfy everyone, but this is what I felt this year. As you can see, I had a great time listening to a lot of great music. This is just my way of immortalizing my favorite artistic moments of the year, and I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this video and listening to this music as much as I did. Next up, I will be preparing further year-end videos. I think the next video will be for the best games of 2022, and then finally, best films of 2022. Not going to rush it, but it's coming. So until then, I'm wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. Take care and see you soon.